Hello and welcome to Around the Lens, episode 84. I'm your host, David J. Murphy. With me is my co-host, Zach Roberts. Zach.
Hello. Hey, guys. If you want to learn more about us, you can head on over to aroundthelens.com. You can follow us on Facebook at AtL Podcast, on Instagram at Around the Lens, and on Twitter at ARoundLens.
If you're wondering what Around the Lens is all about, we're a live weekly visual journalism roundtable podcast coming at you every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Our guests tonight are Justin Hayes and Craig Stampfli. Guys, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourselves. Start with you, Justin.
All right. My name is Justin, and I'm a wedding photographer in Philadelphia, and I write for an online publication called SLR Lounge.
Nice. I know we probably did this joke the first time you were on, but which portion of Philadelphia are you from?
Outside of Philadelphia.
Oh.
The left part of Philadelphia, if you're
The
looking
left
at
part.
the map.
The good part.
Left Philadelphia, born and raised. All right. And it looks like we lost Craig, so this episode is getting off to a banner start. Yeah.
I'm sure he'll be back.
Let's vamp for a second.
There's
Give him an
probably a
opportunity.
kangaroo that jumped on a cable or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's usually what happens in Australia. Hey, while we wait, we're going to talk about a lot of great topics tonight. I'll preview them for you if you don't know what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Air Force basically combining the photo and video military occupational specialties, abandoning Adobe. That's our key topic this evening. What we're talking about, basically, I've been trying to go away from using Adobe products, see if I can do it. So we're going to talk a little about that, and then finally we're going to have the age-old PC versus Mac debate for video and photo editing. So, typical Around the Lens stuff. By the way, Justin, what have you been doing since the last time you were on the show?
Causing shit for Adobe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Please.
I've been trying to. I've been writing for SLR Lounge, writing basically pieces of other software that's better and actually competent.
Oh, wow. That's
Wonky.
great. Well, you'll have a lot of insights to talk about on our main topic, so that's great. And Craig Stampfli, who's this guy?
Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you happen to be in this part of the world. I'll say hello while the internet's working for me.
That's great. Yeah, we were predicting that you probably had something like kangaroos jumping on your internet lines or something, right?
Oh, it's a daily occurrence. Yeah, kangaroos and wombats, drop beers,
Wallabies.
Tasmanian
Wallabies.
devils maybe chewing on your table.
those
that's-
really scary spiders.
That's further south. That's further south.
Oh,
A
okay.
little bit of trivia though. Do you know that wombat poo is cubed? Did you
No,
know?
I did not know that.
I have
Yeah,
heard that
wombat.
before, yes.
There you go.
Actually,
It's true.
It's
It's
in my
true.
head. But
Yeah.
That's great.
Anyway, on with the show.
Indeed. I don't know. I mean, we may have to spend 15 minutes talking about cube poo.
yeah.
Well,
Wombat
that's all I
poo.
know is wombat poo is cubed.
Oh, okay. Poos of the world. We'll have to save that for a
There you
topic
go.
for another day. All right. Well, let's get on with the show. We got a lot to talk about. Like I said, the big news this evening, and you probably, if you're not connected, within the Air Force career field like I am with regard to public affairs and all that, you may not know what happened because I haven't seen any news stories posted about it. But essentially, the DoD, or at least the Air Force, has decided to combine the photo and video military occupational specialties. So just so you know how it works is basically if you go into the military, you have a couple options. You can be a broadcaster or you can be a photojournalist. Now, back in the day when I joined the military, there were three career fields essentially. There was journalist, there was photographer, and then there was videographer. And the videographer also learned to be a broadcast journalist. So, it was three or four, depending on how you look at it. But essentially, there were three core career fields. And then about 7 years ago or so, the Air Force combined photography and journalism and just made it one course, photojournalism. And now they've kind of taken the last step and decided to combine video and photography into one course. So if you were to join the military after 2020, which is when this new plan is supposed to take place, you will learn photography, journalism, videography, broadcasting, and also graphics. So you're going to learn everything in one go. I got to imagine that kind of course is going to have to be at least 6 months because the one I went to was in 3 months. And that's how long most of the courses were, about 3 months. But to learn all that, it has to be at least 6 months. So what I want to get, from your all's perspective, because I know none of you were in the military, but, what do you think about this sort of what the military is doing here? Because this isn't just the Air Force doing it. This is going to go DoD wide, all the services, because ultimately DINFOS, Defense Information School, where they teach this stuff, is going to be combining these courses. So if you want, militarily trained photographers and videographers through the, military's recognized school for that career, they have to have those skill sets. Now, the only other service that does combine all the skill sets is the Navy, as far as I know, where you come in as a mass communicator. That's your rating, if you will, mass communication specialist, and you learn photo, video, journalism, all while you're DINFOS. So you go there for multiple schools, but now it's like everybody's going to be that way. And honestly, it's been a trend that I've seen, going on throughout, my time in the military. And I think it was kind of going to happen, eventually. But what do y'all think about that?
Who wants to go first?
Fascinating, guys.
I'll go first.
Man, so many opinions.
I think that's the way that the media is going anyway. You can't just be a dedicated photographer now. You have to know video, and then it's kind of like a hop skip to broadcasting, that it's easier and more cost effective for the military to just teach everybody and decide where they want to put them, find their strengths, and where they fit.
Yeah, I would say it's less so cost effectiveness. I mean, more so about manpower effectiveness. So it's like, we obviously, and it goes to cost effectiveness too, is that, you have a shrinking workforce, if you will, and you have to do more with less. So yeah, it is cost effectiveness as well in the military. Mm-hmm.
So the military is getting smaller in the US?
It's fluctuating. I don't want to speak to.
Oh no, I don't mean that's a negative. I mean, it's just.
I mean, in a larger sense, I mean, ever since the drawdown from Iraq and Afghanistan and those wars have ended, yes, there has been a shrinking of the military, and that's natural. When you have a conflict, the military balloons, gets bigger. When you have a time of peace, so to speak, it kind of contracts a little bit. Especially as budgets sort of get tighter. Now I know that President Trump has proposed larger budgets for the military, and I know that they are trying to actually grow the forces again. But again, I'm not fully versed in what's going on with the size of the military. Sure. But I can tell you that just from a larger, just a general perspective, it is sort of like manpower has always been an issue. You always have less people. You're trying to do more with less. So I think that the overall consensus, or at least mindset with this change, is to just give everybody the same skill set. And now instead of me having 4 photographers and 4 videographers, and 2 of those videographers are deployed and 1 is sick, and I only have 1 videographer now, and I have 4 photographers who can't really do video, now I have 8 people who can do either job. So my options as sort of commander, so to speak, are expanded, because now I can pull from any of the 8 people to tell them, go do this video job, or go do this photo job. So I think in that sense, you're not limiting yourself. And another reason for the conversion is that essentially you had people in the career field who were doing their other counterparts' job. They were learning. If you're a photographer, you were learning video just because you worked with videographers, and it made you more a better tool, so to speak, or a better more capable. So people were learning, and people were doing this stuff on their own without formal training. And now this will actually formalize that and give those people that training. So,
well, it's good for that individual in that they've got a bigger skill set, and it's paid for by the government.
Yeah,
that's good for the person.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought, this is something that, why would you not want to know more stuff, I mean, the downsides, of course, the stuff that always people are talking about is that dilutes the individual skill set. So, instead of having someone who's an outstanding ace photographer, or, an outstanding ace videographer, you're getting someone who can do, both okay.
That's what everybody settles on now anyway.
I mean, go to journalistjobs.com right now and look at the job description of any photographer
amateur
position.
through to
and it's 45 pages long. And if you don't have to know HTML and SEO and all this other stuff and how to use social media as well, I mean, look, I know within the military that, I guess I can say, CS has been doing video for a while, and I don't think that, obviously, I don't know if he was trained at Dinfos with that skill set with video. I don't think so. I know he asked me questions, so I assume not. Because he's a much better still photographer than me. So, it's surprising that it wasn't kind of. I guess it was probably one of those things that was happening already and was going to happen because the rest of the skill set is. I mean, also, since a lot of the military upgrades quite often when it comes to photo gear, at least in my experience, I assume that every single camera you guys own, that everybody owns, has video on it. So it seems kind of stupid to not have camera. Oh, I mean, is there a camera right now that has been made in the last 8 years that doesn't have video? So I mean, professional gear wise, digital.
That's not a toy.
Exactly. Even the toys. I mean, even some of the little kids' toys that have it. I mean, there is a D3300 as probably is, or 3800 or whatever it is probably going to have 4K on it next time comes around. But so it's kind of ridiculous that you send people out with gear that they don't actually know how to use. Or
use half of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it seems kind of a waste.
Well, it's just a switch on your rifle. You go from single shot to rapid fire.
Yeah, we're only going to teach you how to use single shot on the rifle, and
yeah, the argument for specialization has been sort of weakening, as obviously every single camera you buy now has the video and photo capability built in, so there were, the enterprising folks, who wanted to be at the lead and in the forefront. I believe, the Marine Corps, as far as I know, switched to Canons because Canon can shoot photo and video. They actually adopted a fleet of Canon 5D Mark IIs for their deployment kits. Because of that capability. So they were very much at the forefront, although they're the ones who, as far as I know, steadfastly hold to the 3 career field core capabilities. So they still have their, as far as I know, photojournalist school, photographer school, and videographer school.
Well, that was always the. So I mean, there's only so much you really can teach them. But
I know.
So at least you got that going for you. But
I do want to say that the sort of the general conception that Marines are not as smart as other services is I think, falsely accused stereotype. The Marines are actually one of the few services that you have to have a high school degree to get into.
Speaking of
but anyways, enough of that. But just in general, so I mean, this is kind of you guys think this is a good way to go. With the military, and that'll serve the members better, and that this is just the way it is, right? Yeah, you have to have these skill sets.
Yeah, like you said.
So. Yeah, go ahead, Justin.
Is there?
I was going to say, like you said, that it's better to have 8 guys doing both jobs okay than one specialized guy that can't do too much, and if he goes down, then you're kind of screwed.
Right. Okay.
I mean, I assume that they're look at I'm better at I'm better at still photography than I am video. I'm better at video than I am at audio. But guess what? I can do each one of those jobs. But if I'm in an office or I'm in a group of people, I'm gonna do the still work. Somebody else is gonna do the video. So I assume that's probably gonna be the way anyway. I mean, if somebody's a really spectacular still photographer and there's a still part of the assignment, they're going to do still. You're not going to send the guy that is really great at video and crap at still. I mean, I'm assuming you're not going to send the guy that's really, really good with a bazooka to do the sniper's job. I don't know. These are military metaphors that I don't understand. I did really, really well on the ASVAB test, and then decided no, which was a really good idea because I would have joined right at 2001. So,
yeah, that would be interesting if you were in the military, Zach, just because you're overall.
Still, no. It would have been interesting if I still was in the military, not joined, but lasted through basic training, and not got kicked out because of insubordination.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I think this is overall good. There's going to be people who will say it's bad, or I think will argue it. Just like there was when they combined photographers and journalists together. There was a big uprising there, or not uprising, but just a lot of people unhappy with that. I think they're taking a different path with this in terms of mostly the training aspect, because that's the biggest thing, is that if you have people who've only been photographers or photojournalists their entire career, and now you're asking them to be videographers, but you don't give them any sort of training, it's kind of tough to, it's not very fun. But it looks like they've got a training pipeline all planned out, and they're going to do their best for people. But it's also going to be a lot of the initiative on the member themselves to take up that willingness to learn the craft and get good at it. So I look forward to seeing how it is. I mean, I'm gonna obviously be living it in a couple of years when it actually happens. I'm excited. I can't wait to see what happens. And like I said, inevitability was going to happen eventually. So, but anywho, I don't know. Are there any jobs out there where you can just go in and be a videographer or be a photographer that you can apply for? Or is it? I think probably if you're on the video side, probably you have a better shot of just being specializing in video than on the photography side.
But even there, you need to know how to do still. You need to know how to do lighting. I mean, video isn't even just a job. There used to be guys that did. Well, I mean, there still is, but outside of cinema or anything like that, there's used to be lighting guys, used to be the audio guys, and now even in TV journalism, the basic camera guys are even slowly fading out too now, because you're starting to get these things called MMJs, multimedia journalists. Basically, usually that means that's another one of those job titles that could mean freaking anything. But MMJs are usually basically these poor people with an iPhone and a selfie stick, and they're the on-camera, the reporter, everything under the sun, and their job usually starts out at $28,000 a year. So,
well, what I've seen from a lot of local area journalists that are visual broadcasters and whatnot that I've worked with at the local TV stations, is that it'll usually just be one person. And they'll have their camera, and they'll have a a backpack satellite transmission thing, so they actually can do live feeds from wherever they're at. But they're the only person. They set their camera on a tripod, and they step in front of it, and they do their stand up with their microphone, and then they go shoot B-roll, and then they get interviews with folks. So that's pretty much, it's one man show is what you're seeing a lot in the at least the television news type stuff. And then what I see a lot too from the local newspaper publication is a lot more video, but it's honestly it's not like video packages like what you'd see on a news piece. It's more like, hey, here's a bunch of B-roll footage that I strung together of what I shot, so it's it's like they're still dipping their toe in it in certain aspects. So anyways, all right. Well, that is something to think about. Maybe we'll have some military guests on here in the future, and we can get sort of their take on it. Craig, any anything about the Australian military or how they do their photo or video jobs?
I can't say that the few military people I know, one's a dentist, and he's on maneuvers at the moment, actually with the American Army and the Air Force up north of here. I don't know if any what the videographers do or the photographers do. Haven't really sort of met anybody that does that.
Did you ever think about joining the military yourself?
When I was
back in the day,
I wanted to join the Air Force myself. That was many years ago, but
it's not too late.
I think it might be at my advanced stage.
Yeah, you're right. All right. Well, let's move on to our main topic this evening. We're talking about abandoning Adobe. So for many of us, Adobe is the holy grail in terms of what we do to actually function and do our job. I know I have the Adobe Creative Suite that I pay $50 a month for, and honestly, it makes doing everything that I do pretty easy. And I'm not bashing Adobe by any means, but the more I've kind of thought about it, the less I really want to spend $50 a month on the software that I use. and I just don't think like I'm getting $50 a month worth of use out of the software that I have. You know, it's like I touch Premiere a little bit, I touch Photoshop a little bit, I touch Bridge a little bit of Lightroom, but do I really need that much, you know, for what I'm paying? And I don't know. I don't know if I do or not. So I've been looking for alternatives, and I'm going to kind of, you know, talk about what I've found to try and maybe see if I can't augment the gap. But I want to throw it to you all. Maybe Craig, do you have any sort of alternatives? Do you live a strict Adobe lifestyle, or are you trying to get doing other things in your life?
I do. For me, it's mainly Lightroom and a little bit of Photoshop where I need it. But I have sort of strayed and looked at others. At the moment, I've been playing with Luminar from MacFun and Capture One as well. I'm starting to teach myself for trying to learn infrared photography. And Capture One has some good tools in that for infrared. The color treatments or color temperature. There's a lot more scale to move, which suits infrared. So yeah, dabbling with those other ones, but for day-to-day workflow, I still go back to Lightroom mainly because I'm setting my ways in how I process images for a client. But for myself, I fiddle with the other ones.
See, I think if you just have the Lightroom Photoshop bundle, it's not that bad because it's like, what, $10 a month, right?
It's about, $10 or $12 a month, and it's pretty cheap.
Yeah, I mean, that's not too bad, I would say.
No.
But, I mean, could you abandon those? Could you find alternate ways to do that workflow, or do you think you're kind of
I probably could do. Again, it's just teaching an old dog new tricks and just trying to figure out how do I batch process these, particularly the HDR stuff I do for real estate when I do that. How can I do that in Luminar, or how do I do that in Capture One? Whereas I know all the shortcuts in Lightroom and process from there. Yeah. So probably is. I'm just stuck in my ways at the moment for the client side.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, if you're making the money, it may not, you know, it's just a business task to do a business. So
sure. And Lightroom's also very, very good for cataloging. You know, everything's set up that way for how I want to find a photo. I know where to look, how to, you know, when I do put a keyword in, I know what to use to find it, type thing.
Yeah, great. How about you, Mr. Hayes? What's your take on all this stuff?
I've completely abandoned Adobe.
Tell me more.
It's been like 6 months since I've opened an Adobe product, mainly because my account got closed.
That'll do it.
Them.
That'll help.
I wrote a piece basically saying that for $600, you can create your own suite from Capture One, Affinity, and a couple other free programs that is going to be leaps and bounds beyond what Adobe is offering. And it runs better on older hardware than any Adobe product does.
Right.
Like I used to open Lightroom and my laptop would scream at me, and I can do like 3 weddings with Capture One and it stays quiet.
Wow.
And I do it so much faster.
So go through like the, you know, equivalents that you've downloaded or that you recommend, you know, like what's the equivalent of Photoshop, Bridge, Lightroom, Premiere, et cetera, et cetera.
Let me pull up the list.
All right.
I write one down.
Okay. So for Lightroom, there's Capture One.
Yep.
And that has tethering that's better than Lightroom. If you actually care about colors, there's that too. So for Photoshop, there's Affinity, which is the only reason that I use an older version of Photoshop is for cinemagraphs and time lapses.
Okay. Spinographs?
Cinemagraphs.
Oh, cinemagraphs. Okay.
Yeah. Affinity doesn't have that timeline feature yet. For Illustrator, there's Affinity Designer. For Premiere, there's DaVinci Resolve, and you can't beat the price of free.
Yeah.
Let's see. For Audition, for people who still use that, there's Reaper. Handbrake instead of compressor.
Yep, Handbrake's good.
Yeah, so that's all what I have for the list.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I downloaded DaVinci because I want to see if I can make that a Premiere replacement. I love how, you know, you get pretty much the whole thing for free. I can export 1080p or 4K. I mean, that's all I need, really.
Well, you're limited to UHD, not DCI.
Well, you know, I mean, yeah. I don't even really shoot in full. You know, I got the cameras. I mean, I could shoot in, you know, full 4K if I really wanted to, but.
What camera do you use, David?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I use
really,
the
Craig?
Panasonic
Really?
GH5.
Get it out of the way, Zach. We just get it out of the way.
Shoots in full 4K, in addition to UHD, and 180 frames per second, 1080p. And it's got a sensor size that's this big.
Yep.
But anyways, I said, like I said, I downloaded DaVinci. Haven't had a chance to really do a project in it, but I really want to see if that's going to be able for, you know, take over for Premiere. Now, I was considering replacing Photoshop with GIMP. Have you used GIMP much? You recommend that?
I would not recommend GIMP.
Yeah.
First, it sounds very provocative. Yeah, what do you use? GIMP?
Not in the good way.
And they're gonna like laugh you out. Any like media house is gonna laugh you out the door. But GIMP is run by solely volunteer basis, and if something's broke, it usually takes 6. Oh, it'll probably be fixed faster than Lightroom.
Yeah, that's true.
But
what do you think about the program Photo Mechanic as sort of an image management / processing tool? A lot of photojournalists use it.
I use Photo Mechanic to look at raw files instead of doing it through Lightroom. I only use Photo Mechanic now to change the timestamp of the camera when the cameras are out of sync. And that's the only purpose I use it for. Because Capture One still doesn't have that.
Okay, okay. I mean, Zach, how about you? I know you probably use Photo Mechanic, right?
No, I actually use Lightroom. I just haven't really decided to spend the money on it. I would actually love to buy it. I just, you know, when I have Lightroom and it works for me, I don't do the quick sort of turnaround stuff that you know, higher end wire photographers and stuff like that do usually. So most of my stories are due the next day for the places I write for. So right now it's not necessary. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the only reason I would see it hard for me to move away from Adobe is that like working with, I guess I don't know if the other programs are able to export as Adobe formats or files and stuff like that. So if you're working with somebody, because I mean, like that's the only reason why I see like having a problem. My thing is you know, I mean, it's the same reason why up until literally the last month, I've stuck with Apple for so long, is because I know it and it works for me for what I do. And literally, like, to learn something new, it's just, for me, it's not worth it. I mean, obviously, I've been going through the whole new PC process thing, and also, I still have a probably shouldn't say this. I still have a discounted version of the Adobe Suite monthly, so it's not as bad.
I think it's the Adobe police.
When I'm paying the full amount. I mean, my big problem with Adobe Suite is, I mean, there's like 12 programs there that I will never touch. Like, just never, that I know I'm paying for.
So they need a photojournalism bundle with like
Premiere. I need Premiere. Maybe what's the audio one? I've used it like twice now. Audition. I'm starting to learn how to use it. Maybe InDesign and Lightroom. I barely even use Photoshop, especially considering Photoshop works on my iMac. It works like it's the word. It literally crashes my entire computer every time. Weirdly, Premiere, I can edit 4K video using this. Works fine. Photoshop, for some reason, like, it hates it with a passion. And Apple refuses to. They blame it on Adobe, not on the fact that this computer in particular has problems with it. But you know, I mean, if the price goes up, I could certainly see myself changing. But right now, it's just a matter of. It took me so long to learn Final Cut way back in the day, and then I finally switched once Final Cut decided to basically give us a middle finger. collectively. Well, I mean, they went from a good basic program that like if you didn't need to like do anything complicated, I just want to edit video together and maybe do some overlays and maybe touch the sound and whatever, and it works. And then it went to basically a version of iMovie on crack, and LSD, with like 45,000 things all over it. And I'm sure there are people out there that love their new Final Cut, 10 or X or whatever 10. The hell it's called now. Yeah. Which again, they'll update it in 45 years or so. Like they updated Final Cut. But I mean, like, so I finally learned Premiere, and I'm like, I know it pretty well. And like the fact that I get to just jump from one program to another when if I use, the very, very little that I use After Effects, like it works. The thing is, I don't do a lot of complicated. If I did more intense stuff, maybe I'd look at other programs. But like I said, like the fact that everything just kind of works together, it's fine for me.
Do you use shortcuts?
No.
No. Okay.
I mean, like, man, yeah, no. Like Photoshop, I've used Photoshop since 2002, and I barely know how to use it, which is good. I don't like to know how to use that well, because as a photojournalist, I feel like I'd be tempted, they're like to do things too well. I like Lightroom. I go boom, boom, scales or whatever, move my bar across like a little bit, and then I'm done and out. And I don't even use. It's been like since the days of Picasa, if you remember. Google's Picasa. I was using Picasa all the way up until 2007 or something like that, because I didn't need anything else. Like it was like you need to process out, I need to crop things, and I need to maybe lighten or brighten, and then it's out. And then I basically found out about Lightroom, or at least Lightroom became better. Yeah, it became better, and also I think it became cheaper. Maybe I don't really remember what the big changeover was, why I finally got it, but I finally got it, and I was like, oh, okay, this works. For the catalog, especially for cataloging, even though I'm really terrible at it.
See, I used Aperture for years until they finally killed it off, and then had to go to Lightroom.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's one of the reasons why, like, with Adobe, like, I feel like since Adobe, all that Adobe does is Adobe. Like, they do these programs, is that things like Lightroom and Photoshop and Premiere, at least those three programs, maybe they're going to change maybe a little bit and evolve, but like they're not going to go away unless Adobe goes away. Like any of the other things, that, and as, file formats change or whatever, and if they're not updated, that's something I always worry about. And I don't have to really, with the cloud, I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to think about it at all, which is basically my entire thought process on technology. Do I have to think about it? Like, then it's awesome. if I don't have to think about it, because I hate, like, I wish we could go back to film. So I'm that person.
So what about the constant updates and like Adobe breaking, like basically their programs? Like you said, like your Photoshop crashes your computer. Like,
it does. It's this computer. I have my MacBook works awesome on. Like literally, like boom, quick. There's something like Adobe Cloud hates this computer. There's something like with this computer, I don't know what. I'm selling it, everything. I'm getting rid of. I moved over to PC because I can't afford the next upgrade on Apple to shoot 4K and do everything. Yeah, it's just I don't have any problems on any other. I haven't updated in ages on my laptop. It's still everything works fine. The updates don't really bother me that much. I mean, of course. I guess maybe if I was on the edge of everything, like if I shot with D5s and like literally everything off the top of that, I shoot with usually older gear. I mean, both of my cameras are D600s. My video camera is a JVC that's 2 years old now, and just I don't have to really think about it too much. Maybe every once in a great while I have to. The only thing I have to do is to update to make sure if I start working on my laptop and then move over to my iMac, then that's the only reason I may have to update things. But I rarely ever even update anything. I'm like the worst person to to ever like try to get switch on things. Like I will use a program until it like literally doesn't. Like I was using Final Cut 6 or whatever it was, Final Cut Pro 6, up until like I don't know when the hell did Final Cut 10 come out? Like I used it for like a year after that.
Yeah.
Like so because I like that's the other. I mean the other thing too is if I had to pay the monthly cost in 1 year or in one sitting, like I will happily pay $30 a month for a program as opposed to pay $200 for a program once a year. Like all logic when it comes to things, it has so much to do with me. And I know that there are better programs. Photo Mechanic makes so much more sense for me, but I already pay for Lightroom and I have it and it works. So that's why I do it. But yeah, so I'm a bad person to try to convince on anything else.
but that's
All I know
if it works, it works. You know,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
the same with
I mean,
Lightroom.
yeah,
I don't
I
find
mean,
it that
like,
slow.
All the problems I have with Adobe aren't with Adobe. They're with the computers that I use with them. And I guess maybe I guess it definitely could be argued that, you know, if I use different programs, then these computers would work perfectly fine. Would probably work better. You know, I'm sure Photo Mechanic would open up in a second and do everything I need to do it for it because it's a lighter program than Lightroom. But you know, I don't know. Like I said, you know, Premiere is fine because it doesn't like they occasionally make like the recent update on Photoshop. I mean, I guess not recent. I guess it was probably a year ago that they changed a bunch of the graphics. Like literally, just has to do with like the icons. Screws me up because, like I said, I'm so bad with these programs that I don't actually know what I'm like. That's the button I click. The moment they change the icon, I go, I don't know where it goes. Like, so like I literally don't want to learn because I fought going into video and audio for so long and then finally did it because, you know, like the last story we talked about, it's where everything's going. So yeah, anyway.
For me, it really just comes down to cost because my whole plan is to go to completely free or open source software, switching from Adobe. So again, I think I can be settled with DaVinci for video. I'm going to try GIMP for Photoshop. I'm going to try Audacity for audio recording or editing. I just downloaded Scribus for InDesign replacement.
Try Critter and instead of GIMP. Critter is definitely so much better than GIMP.
Okay.
And much better designed.
Okay.
And actually better supported. Yeah, did you hear about Microsoft Paint dying officially today?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah. Did people still use it?
My grandma still uses it.
Go on Reddit, they do. A lot of people do. I never understand why I mean, I guess if they're not continuing support for it, there's always these really old retro programs that they've like kept going for some reason. And then like really for like a company the size of Microsoft, isn't it worth it to like keep one guy on this program to like keep it alive?
Yeah, but what happens when that guy goes on vacation? They're like, okay, we'll just get rid of it.
No, but like,
I lost all my MS Paint files.
Keep going. You know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, Microsoft is worth how many multi-billions of dollars, and it's just like, let's put pay one guy $60,000 a year or something like that, or whatever, to like keep this thing alive.
How long would he last, though? How long would he last?
I don't know. You know, I don't know. I mean, like, just when I always think about like, you know, a lot of the like, oh, we're gonna stop, you know, keeping this thing going, and you're like, you're a multi-billion-dollar company. Like, yeah, maybe it's not making you as much money. I mean, I obviously I know you got shareholders, so I guess that's why. But like, still, like, really, how many people does it take to keep Paint alive?
You could say the same thing about Lightroom.
Paint alive. Paint alive. I don't know. I mean, I want to play with their 3D editing tools. I played around with a little bit on one, and it's pretty neat. I mean, that's where, you know, 3D and like making augmented reality stuff like that. That's where it's at. I'm downloading Critter right now, so I'll let you know how it does. So, anyways, though, any last thoughts on the Adobe dilemma? And again, for me, it's just about money. I'm not making money off of it. So I can't justify spending money on it. right now. If I had, a vibrant photojournalism, whatever, or, whatever video, if I had a vibrant, job function that was, I needed that function tools for, then I'd be all about keeping it. But as it is, this is, it's just not, can't do it.
I think Adobe announced recently that they're looking at updates for, I think, Lightroom and possibly Photoshop to speed them up. So possibly, there'll be a revamp of the software coming out, maybe the next update.
The survey, the infamous survey.
Yeah, this survey, yeah.
Where people just bitched and complained about things that they've been bitching and complaining about the last, 10 years.
Yeah. Someday those will be and
then,
all right.
What was it? Capture One reads it and be like, oh, we'll just do this in the next update.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our last topic this evening, since we've been talking about computers. I read. I've been looking for, not really looking for, but I've been curious about 4K editing on PCs. I can edit 4K on my Mac just fine. So I have no interest in upgrading, but I've just been curious about what is going on in the 4K video editing space for PCs. Also kind of spurred on by what you've been, what you did, Zach, in terms of your switching over to PC to do your 4K editing. Now that you finally found the joys of 4K, after we've been talking about it incessantly on the show, eventually you'll come over to the Panasonic side as well. I know it. You'll come.
Literally so many steps along the way. I would have to go from Nikon to Canon to Sony to Sony to Fuji, and then
back to Canon,
and then probably back to Nikon again, because that's where my heart is. But
sell all your camera equipment, all your lenses, come over to the Panasonic side. We'll be waiting for you, open arms,
both of you.
That's right. They're literally dozens of us.
Speaking of the one of the as much as I worry about Nikon with certain financial reports that they've had in the past year, I have a feeling it's going to be around. I worry about some of the other, I actually worry about Sony enough that whether it'll be around or not in 10 years.
Really? I mean, Sony are killing it.
The company itself is not killing it though. Sony itself. Now, if somebody, what I see is, 10 years down the line, because Sony, the corporation, is not doing well, because now all they really have is cameras to extent which I don't believe that it's a profit center for them. And I don't know, does the PlayStation make any money now? Does gaming for them still, is it back to again? Because they were losing money.
That's the only division of Sony that's actually making money right there. The games division.
Well, I think that their movies might be starting. I mean, Spider-Man, they own at least half of it. So
right,
they're that department.
I don't know.
So they're piggybacking on Disney.
Yeah, exactly.
So Justin and Craig, what do you guys use, Mac or PC, and why?
Justin, go ahead.
I use both and Linux.
You're that crazy.
We just lost you. What was that?
Did I use both and Linux?
Whoa. On the same machine?
No. Hell no. So my main driver is a 2011 MacBook Pro, mainly because I can fix anything in it. My workhorse is a Windows, and I just for fun built a $100 Linux box that actually runs DaVinci ridiculous. So I just use it for that.
Okay. Cool. So you're ambidextrous. How about you, Craig?
I've got a late 2014 MacBook Pro 15-inch model. And that does everything I need. I have it hooked up to I used to have a cheap 4K monitor, but that died. So I bought a nice Philips 2K 32-inch screen. And that's what I do all my editing on. So once a month, I do a color calibration of both screens. And my workflow is mainly on the 32-inch. But when I travel, everything's done on the MacBook Pro.
Okay.
I'm off to France in a couple of weeks for a wedding, and that's going in the bag along with a bunch of lenses, and anything I do on the trip, which will be minimal, will be done on that. And I have no problems with, with Lightroom running on that. Really happy with it for the most part.
Cool, cool. No interest in switching to PC?
No, I used to years ago have PCs, and I used to build my own and upgrade them, and new motherboard, new graphics card, all that sort of stuff. And then started looking at, I think it was the 24-inch iMac, when they sort of, the form factor all changed, and
yeah,
they sort of interested me. And just the all-in-one feature, everything was there, and I didn't have to worry about updates and viruses and all that sort of nonsense. And bought one of those, and since then it's, in fact, we've gone all Apple in the house. I think my wife and kids all have MacBook Airs that they use, and iPads.
I can see the Mac behind you on the desk.
Yeah, that's my son he's playing games on that. That's what that mainly gets used for. Well, my younger one, he likes to play on PlayStation. But yeah, that's sort of the backup. If I ever have a problem with my laptop, I run over there. But I think I've done it once in 3 years. And for me, it's I've sort of streamlined down to what the Apple can do, and just make it work.
Yeah, I've been thinking about. I mean, I have the MacBook as my daily driver, and then I've got a little mini PC that I use for just when I need PC stuff. But I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to going back to PC in a few years when or if I decide to upgrade from this MacBook. Because right now I have no reason to upgrade from the MacBook I have. I mean, you're using it. It's a perfectly solid machine. Do you have a solid state drive, or do you have a regular drive?
It's got a 512 SSD, and then
SSD.
Yeah, so I've got the my workflow is basically the card goes plugs into a card reader, copy everything to a Drobo just below, and then I bring up Lightroom, import all the files, and edit them, and then export out to back to the Drobo. And I honestly don't find it to be that slow.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's perfectly capable for 4K editing and 1080p editing. So, yeah, no issues on my end or complaints about the computer. I was just thinking, again, in 3, 4, whoever many years. I mean, I plan on using this machine till it dies. But what will the next computer be? And I think Zach, you can attest that PCs aren't that bad for 4K editing, right?
Well, the funny thing is, shamefully, because I've been busy enough that I haven't even made the changeover yet. I haven't edited 4K on this new computer yet.
Are you editing on your Mac?
Weirdly, I don't know what the deal is, but it seems to work vaguely okay enough on this this iMac. I'm not quite sure what the problem was with my laptop, because the laptop's better than this, better than this iMac. So I don't really know. I don't know what the deal is. My main reason for switching, though, is because I'm going to have to switch eventually, because I can't afford the next MacBook Pro that I would need to buy. So because eventually I know myself, I'm probably going to get drop this kind of crappy 4K video camera I have and move to at least the C100, if not hhopefully the
GH5.
Whatever the new. No. I like a camera that you can actually hold on to. You don't have to use fingertips. But I want basically. I know I'm going to move over to a larger sensor camera, and I just want something. This computer cost me $1,000. The equivalent in Mac is going to be $3,000. And it's probably not going to have. I'm going to have to spend another $200 in adapters. Which is literally, I'm just it just was I'm done. Then also, I've had the worst customer service. I've never had worse customer service than I have with Apple Care with this computer. I've spent 60 hours on the phone with them over the last 2 years, and sent it in twice and everything like that. And it's this one little thing, and they just refuse to do anything more with it. And so it's literally just it's half the company basically flipping me off, and the other half going, well, I know in 2 years these computers are not going to do what I want it to do. Screw it, let's just do it now. And I mean, personally, I wish I could use any other machine. I hate Windows 10. I hate Windows in general. And like I actually looked in getting one of building a, oh God, what do they call them? The fake Macs, basically.
Hackintosh.
Yeah. But I mean, you know what I want is I just want a freaking Chromebook that runs Adobe. Like literally, that's all I want in life. Like, because I don't care about the operating system at this point. I use Chrome or Firefox, and then the Adobe suite, and that's it. Everything else is either on Google Docs or whatever else. I use Pages maybe once a month to write an invoice or two.
I use Pages.
Yep. Pages,
I use Pages because it's what I got. It's like literally came with the computer. So
I've got my little templates all set up.
Yeah, exactly. I have templates in it, and it works, and I don't care. It's like, yeah. I haven't updated Pages since I bought either one of these computers, and I never will, because every single time, again with that, every single time I update it, it just gets worse. It's like Microsoft Word. It just gets worse every single time. I wish I could find. Oh my God, what was Word Perfect? I wish I could find Word Perfect that actually worked, and I would love to just have that.
See, I'm the opposite to you, Zach. I update whenever there's an update.
Yeah,
there must be something within me that I have to have that update, because I don't like that little bubble sitting there saying
"Oh my God,
updates
that
available."
Little bubble, I want to murder. That's such a.
Yeah, and then I've got the public beta for whatever the latest operating system is for the Mac and on my phone, and I guess I enjoy that, playing with the latest. But
yeah,
I have no problems for the most part. Yeah, so must be you.
Probably.
So you like being on the bleeding edge, and
sort of a little bit, yeah. I mean, because the betas are free, I can afford that. I must say that
isn't it all the updates for Mac free anyway?
Oh, yeah.
You just
Yeah,
wait
that's
for people like you to be like, "Oh, this doesn't
I
work."
want it now. I want it now.
Yeah.
The Veruca Salt.
Yeah. I do like the for iOS 11. There's when it connects to the car through Bluetooth, it turns off all notifications. So you don't get. So I'm listening to music or a podcast or something like that. I don't get the chime for an email. I don't get the pop-up for a message until I stop the car and get out, and there's all the emails and messages. And I do like that. I don't like the distraction of stuff popping up on my phone. So that's a very worthwhile feature.
Yeah.
Now that
I'm buying the Samsung S8 as soon as I possibly can. I hate this phone.
Oh.
iPhone 7, I hate it.
7 Plus.
I just spent $10 so that I could use my freaking headphones, because I lost the adapter that came with it. Because of course there's an adapter.
Well, why don't you have Bluetooth headphones?
What's that?
Yeah. Why don't you have Bluetooth headphones? Like, what's wrong with you?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
these are Bluetooth.
They're cheap.
Because
I get it for like $10.
They don't charge because they don't work on. I've never had a Bluetooth headphone connect to an Apple computer.
All these problems come down to you.
Probably, I have no doubt. You know what I like? I like things.
The lowest common denominator.
Yeah. David, you had that for the show notes. You had that article, that video by Manny, whoever it was, the 5 reasons why he was switching from Mac to PC.
Yeah.
A lot of them were okay. It was cost, but a lot of it was down to either perceived problems that he was thinking were going to happen, or the main one was being cost and not being able to upgrade it. But the other ones, like having all the dongles and all those sorts of things, and he knew that one day he was going to have the problem where he's not going to have the dongle because he left it at home or he left it at the office. Well, that's coming up with an excuse for a problem that actually hasn't occurred yet. You're thinking it's going to happen.
It's literally happened to me. What I love is that when they moved from, what was it, FireWire back in the day, try finding a FireWire 800 cable in Cleveland back when it was a thing.
Once you've got
it
the
doesn't
cable,
fucking exist.
Well, once you've got that cable or adapter, that's part of your workflow. It goes with me.
But
So
I mean, like,
coming up with an excuse of I may forget it.
No, but the problem is that you need to. So I either need to always remember, no matter what I do, if I leave the house, I have to remember every single one of these dongles. But if I have my travel bag, then I have to move it from one bag to another, make sure that every single dongle's in there. And then I have to make sure that it's just like I just want cables that are available at either at least available at a Best Buy, that in case I lose it, need another one. If I buy a hard drive, I mean, the other thing too is that they're not even making hard drives that have the connections for these computers. So if you wanted to buy one, it's impossible to find. I remember you had to go into an Apple store, spend 3 times as much money as the next hard drive, just so you'd have one with a connection before they started doing like dongles on every single one. I've got four dongles connecting on the back of this iMac. Like, what you talk? Like, what is going on here? Like, why?
I feel like people had the same argument 20 years ago when they moved from parallel and sissy ports to USB.
Yeah.
But that was how long? How many years?
That was how long ago? But like it's
no. But I mean, how many
Apple
years?
is like forefronting USB-C is the future, and
I
Apple is going to be like oh, I have a 2015 MacBook.
Why isn't Apple making hard drives that have USB-C?
Like, you can buy them.
They're literally
GTAC, Western Digital.
Western Digital just came up with an SSD.
Every single one. I mean, but like half the time that this is the first time in my memory that they finally USB-C is at least vaguely widely accepted. But FireWire, the two FireWire 400, FireWire 800 wasn't.
Because Apple owned that and charged people.
No, but so it's like we finally have gotten to the point where Apple has figured out, okay, I guess maybe they did it, or the rest of the industry said probably Apple is big enough now that they have to switch over. But I mean, like it's just been
FireWire was proprietary to Apple, and people had to pay to use FireWire ports. USB-C is open.
Yeah.
So it's on phones. It's going to be on computers.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I don't have a problem with Apple going straight to USB-C. My problem is there's no SD card reader built into the computer, and they dropped the maglev magnetic power cable. Those are the only two losses that I really cry about, in terms of the new Mac. Otherwise, though, I could live with the new Mac if I really wanted to, but
Yeah.
See, I use CF cards, so I need a card reader anyway. And for my SD slot, I've got one of those little nifty drives where you put a micro SD card in there, and it's a separate external drive that I keep paperwork on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and attached, I've got a 2, 4, 6, 7 port hub that hard drives are connected to, the Drobo's connected to, and that just plugs in the side, and life's easy, I think.
Cool.
Getting late there in New York.
Well, I'm actually not in New York. I'm in Mississippi.
Oh, Mississippi, right. Okay.
And I'm actually earlier than Zach. Zach's in the late time zone.
Right.
I forget. Where are you, Craig? Or where are you at, Justin?
Philly.
Philly? Oh, that's right.
Remember we had the opening bit where literally, I mean, come on. We literally had like a 2-minute bit about him living there.
Not Philadelphia.
Sorry, I missed that bit.
Yeah, you were frozen. All right. Well, I think that wraps up our show this week. Thank you guys so much for taking part in some lively and entertaining discussion about the world of visual journalism. Craig, do you have anything you want to plug before we sign you off?
I'll just go, Stampfli.photography for my website and Craig.Stampfli for Instagram.
Nice.
Yep.
What about yourself, Justin?
If you want to find out more about Adobe alternatives, check out SLR Lounge. We're doing a lot of stuff about Capture One for people who are. If you want to follow me, it's at jhayesphoto on Instagram.
All right, great. Thank you. And if you want to follow me or Zach, please go to aroundthelens.com. That's where we're pushing all kinds of fun stuff, specifically the shows we do here, which you can also find on YouTube. Again, like us on Facebook, follow us on the Twitter, Do subscribe to us on YouTube. All that stuff is really helpful. Write a review about this episode. If you hated this episode, please write a review and tell us. If you liked it, then please write a review and let us know. We want to know about that type of stuff. If you love the GH5, write a review and tell me how much you love it and that Zach is insane in the membrane, not coming over to my side of the house. If you think I'm stupid and, Zach's right, then write about that. Let us know. We want to know what you think. So always looking to engage with our audience and, want to know what you think. All right. So that's it for this week's episode of Around the Lens. Zach, do you want to throw out anything before we sign off?
This episode has made me it's literally been like everybody else and then me going, nope.
I like it.
So, yeah.
Hope you learned something.
No, all right, all. Well, this has been Around the Lens, episode 84. For Zach Roberts, I am David J. Murphy, and we are out.